Coach Stone Podcast.
I can't see where you coming from, but I know just what you running from. And what matters ain't the who's baddest, but the ones who stop you falling from your level.
I want to welcome everybody to Coach Stone Podcast. This is episode number 6. I want to first go off and thank everyone for listening to Coach Stone Podcast. I want to thank JC Hawks Radio, JC Hawks Sports Network for letting me do this. Our guest tonight for episode 6 is the subject matter expert for the GoArmy Edge app. If you do not know this app, I recommend everyone download it. The one thing I say on all my podcasts, I love things free, and this is actually free. Our guest tonight is Coach Rob Everett, from defensive coordinator from Bridgewater College. Coach, are you on?
I am. Thanks for having me, Coach. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate for coming on the show. Before you start, Coach, I just want you to know the game plan of the show is very simple. We're going to have pregame. You're going to talk about yourself. We'll have a kickoff question, first drive question. We'll take a water break, halftime. We'll let the marching band get on the field. When we come back, we'll do a kickoff return. We'll do a second drive. We'll do a 2-minute warning. That's where you'll leave us with some positive thoughts, some insight for you being a subject matter expert for GoArmy Edge. I believe a lot of the listening audience would love that. And then if we need to, we'll go to overtime. So, Coach, the floor is yours. Pre-game, please introduce yourself to the audience. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Coach. My name is Rob Everett. I'm the defensive coordinator at Bridgewater College. Just finished my second season in college football. Before that, I was the defensive coordinator at Westfield High School in Chantilly, Virginia. My last season there, we won the 6A state championship in 2015. Did it in 3 overtimes. And since I left there, they've won 2 more state championships in double overtime and in regulation the last 2 years. So they've been getting better without me.
That's awesome.
I'm really, really humbled to be a part of this game and the things that are there. And what I like the most about it is that it forces us to continue to keep growing and keep learning because there's always untapped information to find and ways to reach the players to get them play fast on the field.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. First down question. Is there any, do you have a Twitter, Coach, or anything that if you want them to follow you? Or, for example, if there's any high school recruit out there, is there any way they can get a hold of you if they're interested in coming to your college? Yeah,
absolutely. Twitter's the best way to reach me. It's at 9 in the box. It's spelled out 9, NINEINTHEBOX. That's my philosophy on social media and also defensive football. There's always 9 guys there. So that's the best way to reach me.
Well, hey, with everything going on with the spread offense, no offense, you know what? Hey, if they got 4 out there, you got 9 in the box, they're not going to run the ball on you. So that's a good thing, right?
But you got to stop the run, no question. I think everybody, when it comes down to it, they want to run first. And that's the easiest way to go. So we stop that first and then deal with the rest.
Okay, so the first kickoff question, Coach, is this. The GoArmy Edge app, the thing is you're the subject matter expert for the GoArmy Edge app. Explain to our viewers, everything about it. I mean, I love it. The reason someone asked me to do this podcast is they say, hey, you know what, you're a straightforward guy, Coach, and, you're going to help the other football coaches from youth to high school, college, whatever, finding some cool things. GoArmy Edge app is awesome. And I was talking to the one guy, and then he got me involved with you. Explain to our audience everything about it. It's free one, right?
That is the most important thing. It is free, and it's not one of those things where, it's free for a quarter of it, and then you have to pay for add-ons. This is a free program that was created by the U.S. Army, and their intention. People ask, why is it free? And their intention is to highlight the Army's technology and the way that they instruct their soldiers. I think they believe that the Army gets sort of a caveman's rep sometimes, and this is highlighting the different technology that they use to work with the soldiers today. So basically what it is a digital playbook that's all cloud-based, and it's connected through iOS, Android, and on the website. And essentially what it is, if you take any playbook software that draws in 2 dimensions, by the click of a button, it turns anything you draw into a 3-dimensional representation of it. And even beyond that, you're able to control the camera to get any sort of view that you want. So not only you're the coach on the field, but you're also the director of the film. And what it allows the coaches to do and the players is to interact with a playbook like they've never been able to before. Because now you're able to put yourself literally right inside the play in a controlled environment that doesn't require interaction with coaches and other players like practices. And it is worth noting that this program and virtual reality and things like that doesn't replace blocking and tackling. Football has not changed in that sense. But what GoArmy Edge has allowed us to do, and every team in the country, to be honest with you, because of its price point, it's allowed us to modify our teaching and reach the diverse learners that are out there at every level of college football.
And the cool thing about it, too, just by looking at it, right, it's free. So it's not like they're going to jump to, like, a company and be like, oh, we support GoArmy Edge, right? Because it's free. I mean, the Army, it's the people that protect us, right? Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, they all protect us. And that app is phenomenal. And you were saying 3D, right? It's like Madden. It's for Madden for adults, isn't it?
That's right. And not necessarily for adults either. I mean, all levels of football can and use this. You're absolutely right. And I think that's the other piece that I know that the players at Bridgewater College really grab a hold of is, that this is everybody's grown up watching film and things like that, but this actually takes it to a view that they're used to. Number one, it's a digital view that they're used to, but also the field level that they're used to. I remember my old head coach at Westfield High School, Kyle Simmons. He was watching us work one day, and he had this kind of confused look on his face when we were doing our first-person formation recognition, and he's just kind of shaking his head. And so I asked him, Coach, what is the, what are you thinking? And he's like, well, this is just strange to me because, we're used to seeing everything in the press box, and even if you're fortunate you have an end zone view or another view, it still is not necessarily what the players are seeing all the time. And so when we interact with our players, we're having them watch press box film, which they've gotten comfortable, manipulating, but it still is not the view that they see on the field. And
Correct.
So just take something like formation recognition. We're flashing up formations that are easy to recognize from the press box or even from a good end zone view. But what about when you're right over the ball and that huddle breaks and you have to identify, the fullback being offset or the tight end trading to the other side in those things where you're right up in the line of scrimmage? The GoArmy Edge app has really given the coaches and the players the ability to practice those things that traditionally would take a lot of people, both scout and coaches, to be able to replicate.
And like you said, it's for all levels. Like my son downloaded the app on his iPad mini, and he's like, hey, Dad, do you think this will work and things? The one thing I would ask, if you could do me one huge favor, my son, and I don't know if you guys can thank him or whatever, my son asked, can you guys make it so you can have flag football, like lesser numbers? Is that possible yet, or could they eventually do that for us?
Well, I think there's some ways to manipulate it because you have complete control over the whole field. So what I would say if your son wants to play flag football is choose a position group that gets 7 players on the field. So what you would want to do is take something like, let's just say 21 personnel and hide the tight ends and running backs. And then
put them in the far back.
Disappear on the field. Well, they'll actually disappear by with a click of a button. And you'll be able to just get those guys disappearing. So when you look at it in 3D, everybody's running and everybody's moving with the 7-on-7 or 8-on-8, whatever you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be great too because with me, I've been over in Australia and things like that, and they have 9-on-9 and things like that. And now if the Australian people or anybody listening, if you have 7-on-7, 6-on-6, 8-on-8, whatever you play, right? You could do that with the GoArmy Edge. You can use any app. And remember, it's free. And like you said, you can make your playbook. You can make it in 2D, and then you can just transfer it over with the football, even have the ball thrown. And I really like your thing about the formation recognition. I never thought of that. Becoming that linebacker on that video, zooming it in, and then having the play go and then moving him left and right to see if he can recognize that formation. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Coach, that's probably the number one thing that we use it for. And the great part about it is that feature and that concept is the easiest thing to do as well, because you're not drawing anybody post-snap. So there's no effort in fitting up or timing up, different players on each side of the ball. It really is. You can add huddles to different things, move the ball from hash to hash, add in note cards so it comes in a drill, kind of a playlist sort of delivery system. And we can really, defense is really about alignment and recognition. And we can get through 50 plays or 50 formations in 3 minutes. And not only are we able to do that, so it enhances communication between the unit or position group, but the players are able to do it at home and in their dorm rooms as well. And that's what I think is most powerful about this program, and it really kind of merges in with our teaching philosophy of flipped coaching, which is an educational technique that's been around for years, but the idea of here's all the information ahead of time, interact with it as many times as you need to get comfortable with it, and then when we come in and we get together, we'll talk about it as opposed to being talked at. And then we use this to then say, all right, here are now the tools that are going to replicate practice, whether it's formation recognition or, I'm a defensive guy, so I got to remember the offensive guys, front recognition and blitz pickup and things like that.
Yeah.
And then we even go so far as, exactly, identifying safeties. And then we even go so far as we take the 2 or 3 reads at each position and we replicate it in the program. And what that allows us to do is give focused drill work. So you're not looking at the entire play. You're just looking at the guards, for example, or, a run pass for the overhangs or mesh point for defensive ends and things like that. So you give them the ability to focus on those 2 or 3 things that, maybe are unique to the game plan or important for your everydays that they're going to be able to practice when they're away from practice to get additional reps.
That's awesome. Now, you were saying something I heard. I don't know if this is possible. I use it, but I never tried it. How do you send it to the players? Do they log in on your login, or how does that work?
What you do is you create accounts for them. So within your team, you will just add in the player's name and email address, and then they create their own account. And so what happens is when we get done with an install or a drill, I'll send them a message that says the install is ready, or the practice is ready, or the script's ready, and they can go in there on their iPhones, on their Androids, tablets, computers. It's all cloud-based, and with the press of a button, everybody's got it.
There's the whistle. We are done with the kickoff question. Let's go to the first drive question. And we just met, right? We've emailed 17 times, I would say.
Yep.
And how we're both married, so how we're trying to get these schedules. We're trying to fit in the schedule with, talking and everything. Really quick, I just want to. You sound very humble. I want you to know that, and it's great meeting coaches like you that are very humble and want to expand the game and everything, right? And this is my next question. You mentioned in your bio about the new shoulder tackle that you teach in your bio at your college. Can you elaborate on that, or I don't know how much can you go into detail without giving everything up? Is that okay to ask that question?
Well, here's the thing, Coach Stone. I'll tell you that there are no secrets in football. I believe I'm an open book when it comes to this, and I appreciate the kind words. But I believe that the game. All of us are connected on this, and we need. I really don't believe in trade secrets on this, because everybody's going to put their own personal spin, and if we can make teaching techniques, and whether it's actual coaching version or drills that can make the game better, I think that's important that we share. So I like doing podcasts like this for that fact. So the tackling piece is something that I take a lot of pride in with our staff here at Bridgewater, and I've been fortunate to be involved with some good people at USA Football and from around the country. But the idea here is that we want to keep the head out of the tackle, and really it's a safety issue, number one. But then when you really break it down, it just makes sense within a scheme as well. There's a question I'd like to ask defensive recruits, and that's how many defensive players are there on the field? And the traditional answer is there's 11 defensive players on the field, which is not correct, because the sidelines are defensive players.
Sidelines. Got two sidelines. I was just saying there's two sidelines.
There are two sidelines, and those, they are not Bridgewater players. They are not our opponents. They are defensive players. And I guess the true answer is that there are 14, because the end zone is a defensive player, but he's terrible. So we try to kick him off the team as much as possible. But so using that idea that there's 13 defensive players, with the defense always outnumbering the offense, in theory there should always be a vice tackle that should happen. And that vice may happen between a player and the sideline, but there still is the concept that I don't need to cut off anybody's momentum or cut off anybody's path. Really, I need to herd them towards my teammate.
Bring them back to the family, right?
Exactly. So
bring them back to the
that
family.
idea of get the head across, it really, when you look at it, it made sense, especially going down the sideline or something like that you want to stop momentum. But, my job as a tackler is not to stop that person's momentum. It's to funnel them to the other guy who's going to stop their momentum, and my teammates doing the same thing. So that's kind of the concept that we took, when you really try to sell the players on the shoulder tackling concept. So, here's what, there's so many different drills out there, and Vinny Diagatano at Wagner is probably the guy I go to from a tackling standpoint. If you don't follow him on Twitter, find him, because he's phenomenal. But
yeah, Coach Dig, I know him very well. We used to work with USA Football together.
He is the man. But what I try to do is take any drill that you've done, and the thing that I could give that's been the most beneficial for us is think about any drill that you do and then run through it without any hands. And so if you think about it, just put your arms at your side like you're carrying suitcases through the airport, before they had roller bags and things like that. But so everything that you do, if you didn't have your arms involved with you and you just had to tackle somebody with your chest, you would naturally squeeze your shoulder blades together. You would naturally keep your head out of the mix. And it's just like kind of if you ever tried diving into a pool without your hands, it's a different experience. But what it forces you to do is have good pad level, really get that near foot first. And then the language we use is Velcro the pec. And so you go through all these things, take your average shimmy tackle where you're just running down over a bag and then a ball carrier goes one direction or the other. Instead of wrapping that guy up, I'm now going to Velcro it with my pec. And what it forces me to do now is I have to be under control. I have to move my feet properly because I no longer have the advantage of reaching out. And what that forces you to do is keep your base underneath you, keeps your head out of the tackle. And every drill that you can do can be finished with no hand tackling, or no arm tackling as we call it. And then the byproduct of tackling like this is that you're forced to become good teammates as you're going through your drill work. It's a vulnerable position that we're saying fit up off somebody without the use of your hands, where we're not focusing on power here, we're focusing on position. So that ball carrier has to make the tackler work as much as possible, but not try to embarrass them or hurt them, challenge them, but also know that the goal here is to fit up off it. So it really can be applied to any tackling drill that you do out there. Tackling with no hands is probably the best addition that you can make to your library. And what I like about it is it can apply to any drill that you have out there.
So if you do it one more time for the audience so they know it, because, everyone has different tackling techniques, right? And like I think you said it before, in football, some people are so secretive, well, I can't give you my playbook, right? Or they don't even do it on paper, where like you and I, it sounds like, listen, you can have my playbook, you still got to stop it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're like that.
That's right.
But, it's like I have my defensive playbook. You have my calls, but you might not know what's coming at what time. Does that make sense?
No,
so
that's absolutely right.
If you could do me a favor and just go through it one more time, like I was taking notes, like you were calling it a vice tackle, right? Is that how you're saying it?
Yep.
Okay, so if for our audience, because I was into it, I got the Velcro pack, Velcro the pack, no arm tackle. Just go like step by step, like so. The vice tackle would be step one is what?
So the idea is that there's always two defenders at least on every tackle, and we practice this where two defenders are coming from each side, and I'm going to left peck and you're going to right peck, and we are going to vice that thing together on the ball carrier. It also may be angle tackling where we're running down the sideline and my vice player happens to be the sideline. But it's still the same concept of me being the inside hip and Velcroing my near pec with my near foot, and so that really is just the philosophy that we use with all of our tackling. Is we talk about leverage and vice and where your help is, and that's just the language that we use for scheme carries over with our tackling, and that's what I like about the shoulder tackling concept.
Awesome. Perfect, Coach. Okay, so there's the whistle, Coach. Okay, it's halftime right now. So if you don't mind, we're going to get a quick water break, and then we're going to go over some more questions. And then I also got to talk about your upcoming book that's coming out soon, and about your new company and everything like that. If that's okay.
Awesome. Absolutely.
All right, hang on one second, Coach. Let's get the marching band out there, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
The Big Four, a physical education book written by Coach Anthony Stone, can be purchased through the following locations: Amazon, iTunes, BarnesandNoble.com, and Kobo.
Brunch, $30.
Hey, that's okay, Wendy. That was a good carry. You're still the man. You're the man.
Latte, $4.
Shake it off, Johnny. Rub some dirt on it.
New piano, $3,000.
All right, guys. They're not saying boo. They're saying movers.
Supporting your team. Priceless.
It's all right, Bobby. You still got the best arm in the neighborhood.
There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
This is decaf, right?
All right, so Coach, we're back from halftime. We had a great little chit chat during the thing. The marching band took a little. It wasn't a Justin Timberlake, with the whole selfie thing, but we did get a couple selfies in ourselves, right? I hope.
That's right. Good adjustment.
So let's go over the kickoff question, okay? We talked about the tackling stuff, and everything, and we were talking about during the break about, with me, I love sharing my stuff. Like I have my from the HUDL blogs I wrote, USA Football blog, First Down Playbook blog. I share out my my up in the sky when I'm in the press box. I love being in the press box. I shared my sheet. I shared my special teams pod when I was a special teams coordinator at the college. Do you have a template that you wouldn't mind sharing with our audience about your tackling stuff, if that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I can send you over some drill clips, and then also some organization of words and describing the drills. So absolutely, I'd love to share that.
Perfect. So what we'll do is once we get everything done with this podcast and everything, we'll we're talking now, but probably a couple days after, or if you want to send that to me, I'll try to get that up on my website. If you guys go to www.coachstonefootball.com, it'll be under podcast. Click on his episode 6, and you'll get all that stuff from Coach Everett. And Coach Everett, listen, I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, because you know how everything with football is nowadays, with the safety and everything. And with you, it sounds like you're making it, a game where, what I always said and what we said back in where I was working, you're not making the game. You're making the game safer, not softer. If that makes sense.
Yep.
So I do appreciate what you're doing that for that. Okay. So there you go. Hey, Coach, that was a fast kick return question. So we're all done with that. I didn't mean to be so fast with that one, but that was something I think just by going to the website, www.coachstonefootball.com, podcast, get some templates, videos, things like that. Okay, so now we're on our second drive question of the second half, okay? Second drive question. We've already talked about how many defensive players there are. Hopefully everybody will do that. We'll put that in. We'll ask that question when we do that podcast. How many defensive players are on the football field? And if they say 14, we both have a problem with that, right?
Yeah, there's no question.
There's no question about that. So let's do this for that big second drive question. You have your new book coming out. Congratulations. Is this your first book?
It is.
Okay, so your first book's coming out. Why don't you tell everybody what's it about, who's publishing, and all that stuff, and then let's talk about the new company that you're kicking off soon that I read in your bio for the second drive question. So the floor is yours, Coach. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, the book is called The Modern 4-2-5, and I was approached by the Coach's Choice Publication Company last year at AFCA, and it was always kind of a bucket list thing for me to write a book, and it was a fun project that took about 8 months. But really, not only does it talk about defensively the 4-2-5, but it really gets into philosophies about teaching the game of defensive football. And really, what I try to do in the book is unload everything, that it's not just about lines and alignment, but really reasoning why I believe certain people should be aligned certain places, and what it's designed to take away and where the vulnerabilities are. And so I had a lot of fun with it. I hope to be able to do it again. And we're hoping that in the next month or so, the book will come out for the end of clinic season. But that one's going to be fun to have on the coffee table, I think, for years to come.
That's awesome. Now, with that book, I know it's still in the rights. Like when I did mine, I had a certain number of pages, and then it got a little smaller. Does that make sense? Because the people looked at it and things like that. With you had a publishing, you're having the publishing company. I have a publishing company. How many pages is it, you think, when it's all said and done?
I think it's going to be a little bit over 200. It's hard to tell when you're typing it on Word, but I'll be honest, when I started going, and my wife was pregnant with our second son at the time, so I did most of my work from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Just to get some stuff done when the family was asleep. And I didn't have other obligations, but it really was pretty easy to start writing, and once I got going, it just kind of flowed, and I hope that's the way it presents itself too, that it's an honest opinion about defensive football. Obviously, I don't have all the answers, but this is what my opinions are, and hopefully there's something in there, whether it be a drill or a philosophy statement or something that coaches can take away and make their defenses better.
Awesome. And then, talking about books, right? You're saying about drills and things like that. I got my second book coming out, Back to the Basics Drill Manual. With your book, it sounds like you're not just explaining to you're not explaining to the coach or whoever's going to buy your book, coffee table book, right? You're explaining everything, like why I have this person in a 5 technique. This is the reason why. This is a good drill for that typical position. Is that how you're saying it, or explain it?
Exactly. It goes over the in the 4-2-5, the modern. It's Virginia Tech 4-3. That's what it's all. That's what my defensive philosophy is built off of. But it goes to what each player should look like. From characteristics physically and mentally, the makeup of each player to be able to get the most out of each position. And then it goes into rules and alignments from coverage to pressure in situational football also. That it's just kind of a broad overview of football, with the 4-2-5 being the foundation of it.
Awesome. That's great. That's phenomenal. Okay. And you said it's going to be a couple hundred pages, and you said it after clinic season, so we're looking at like April, spring ball for the college.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that in the middle of spring ball it's going to be able to come out. and I'm going to assign it to all the linebackers. That's going to be their meeting that week. Is they have to read the book and then come back. Hopefully they know it by heart, I guess.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, and the thing with your book, it sounds like it's like probably for middle school up, right? I would say.
Yeah, I think it's just like anything else. Football can be complicated by its terminology and its verbiage. But the guts of it, usually is pretty straightforward. And that's really what I try to chase. I started out as a high school coach, and really it was the chase of, let's not make this thing complicated to make us look smart. Let's go the other way and try to make it simple so we can make the players smart. And that's really the foundation of my teaching philosophy, I think. And so I think there's something at all levels of football that can be taken away from this. And I spend a few chapters about teaching philosophies and a few chapters about situational football and how to weave that into practice. And then get into the scheme and the X's and O's of the 4-2-5. So I think there's something at all levels that people can take away.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. Okay, so now that we have that part of the book thing, let the audience, tell me about your company, the new company you have. And I have a funny feeling your wife probably talked you into doing the company because that's what she did with my Back to the Basics company. My wife said, hey, you should do this because other people aren't. But tell us how you thought of the idea of starting a company, and was it your wife helping you? Because they're the backbone of us always. And what is it all about?
Well, there is no question. My wife is the foundation of the majority of things that I do. I'm very fortunate to have a good teammate in that regard. But really, it started where I found myself consulting and being involved with a lot of different great organizations between the Army and USA Football and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And really what I was trying to do is let's bring all this stuff under one umbrella. It really helps me at tax time. That's really what the point is, so I don't have all those things floating around. Now it's in one place. But what Innovative Coaching Technologies is the name of the company, and really the foundation of it, and with the group that I work with the guys on my staff right now, and then colleagues that I've worked with in the past, really focused on coaches' education and the use of technology to be able to reach the 21st learner in today's game. And so starting in 2018 in the summertime, we're working with the Pro Football Hall of Fame for their team 7-on-7 championships. So we'll be doing coaches' education at those events for all the teams that are present, just presenting different ways to interact with players, different ways to teach the players in hopes to enhance the product on the field, but also give the coaches something in a time in the off season when they can learn some information that they can take back to their teams.
That's awesome. And then you said you started it. When did you start the company?
I started it last year, and we did our first run with the Hall of Fame Academy, Players Academy, and did some work for those guys in Canton. And the idea is that this coming summer there'll be 8 venues that my group will go with a 7-on-7 tournament designed for high school teams, with the culmination being the national championship in Canton sometime in July.
Nice. That's awesome. And now, do you have a website or anything?
We do not yet. That is next on my list. I need to get that done.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, Coach. There's the whistle. The game is at the 2-minute warning. Coach Everett, I want to thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on. I know you're very busy. You guys are recruiting heavily, probably, and everything like that at your college. I know you were trying to conflicts with everything with my family, your family, with when the boss says you can, the boss says you can, right? I mean, we had a schedule for one day. The boss said no for you, and you're like, can you do it this day? I said, no, my boss said no. And then you came back and said, the boss says you get a little play time right now, so you better take it. So, the floor is yours. 2-minute warning. Anything you want to say, It's all yours, Coach.
Okay, well, it really would, as a defensive coordinator, I think it's worth kind of talking through my philosophy for game prep for an opponent. And I think so often we jump right into the opponent, and forget to have self-assessment about our own personnel and our own tendencies. What we believe at Bridgewater College is, numbers are going to be our foundation. And not only do we need to know who our opponent is inside and out, but we also need to know who we are inside and out. And with the technology out there today that's relatively inexpensive, you can find ways to get at these numbers that can just provide you invaluable information. And so through the use of Excel and different programs out there, you can run these reports to get an idea about offenses, and there's some things that just jump off the page at you that really have the chance to make a difference in the game. I believe that football comes down to about 5 or 6 plays, and usually those 5 or 6 plays are things that are somewhere in the data of the numbers and through tendencies, and it's identifying those that really put you in a position to put your defense in the right position to be able to make those plays when it comes down to it. So knowing your numbers inside and out. And then the next thing I would say when you're preparing for a week is make sure that your game is, you're looking at it from a situational standpoint. Football is not a vacuum game. Everything impacts it down and distance, situationally, score, location, handedness of the offensive coordinator. I mean, there's all these things that play into it, and your players should practice that way as well. So often we do inside game and then 7-on-7 and then team, when realistically, if you're creative with it, you can really recreate the environment of the game within practice. There was something towards the back end of the season this past year. We were really struggling out of halftime. So our head coach, Coach Clark, he came up with the idea, hey, we're going to actually have a halftime in practice. And so we went into the locker room, gave the players about 5 minutes, and then changed one thing. And it didn't really matter what it was, but made an adjustment and then went out, kicked the ball off, and played a first series out of halftime. And the following 3 games, we got better. And we had a stop. And, so creating those situations that you're going to find yourself in, I think so often we take it for granted that the players are comfortable with it and can translate, the practice periods to, the game environment. And I think as coaches we can do a good job of recreating that as much as possible.
Coach, that is awesome. I really, really like the whole halftime thing. I'm
goofy,
a numbers guy too. I'm a numbers guy. I'm all about percentages. When I coach defense, I'm all about the percentages. This person's foot. Holy cow! Literally, I'm stealing it from you. I'm going to give you credit on national radio right now, right? I know we both have TV. We both have TV faces, but I don't know why we don't have a live podcast. But that's something I'll have to look for next. Yeah, very disappointed, right? Why don't you tell everybody before I thank you and thank everybody else? Tell everybody your Twitter and things like that so they can get a hold of you. Coach Everett is going to let me put stuff on my website for you guys for the templates and things like that and videos. Coach, I want to thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate that. But if you can tell them your Twitter again so they can start following you and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's at 9 in the box with 9 spelled out in words. So at 9 in the box. That's the best way to get in touch with me. And I put a lot of stuff in there about GoArmy Edge and different ways to use it. Our head coach has bought all of our players Google Cardboard off Amazon, and so that's our big thing this off season is using first person virtual reality to train and practice when we're away from each other. So I put a lot of that stuff up on Twitter. So try to share as much stuff as I can on there because I think our guys do some pretty good work here. So I want to share with it as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, Coach Everett, thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for listening to Coach Stone Podcast, episode number 6. I want to thank JC Hawks Radio, JC Hawks Sports Network, for letting me do this. I want to thank my wife. I want to thank Coach Everett's wife for helping out. We also want to give a shout-out to Coach Dick Adams. So, Coach Adams, miss you, man. Love you to death. Can't wait to talk to you next time. But that's the Coach Stone podcast, everybody. Coach Everett, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. Our next guest will be announced very shortly for episode 7. Always remember, instilling confidence by laying a foundation, everyone. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day.
Coach Stone Podcast.
I can't see